Tell me when.
Okay, guys, so straight up, right now, it is, 10:30 at night. And we are having a conversation that I'm going to record because this happens in our house all the time. And I thought you guys might want to know. This is TJ's knife collection, so go ahead, babe. Why don't you tell them what our conversation is about right now?
So we talk about iron sharpening iron, right? We talk about what it takes to sharpen stuff, and friction's good because it sharpens. But here's the funny thing with knife steel. So if you're a knife guy, you know that there's different steels. Or a knife. If you're a knife person and you're into knives, there's different knife steels. Like you have these Walmart knives. Let's see if I can find one real quick. So right here. Okay, so this is a Walmart knife. It costs you like $2. The steel sucks. It's always going to be dull. You're always going to have to resharpen it, right? So, but we're not going to focus on those. But the point is, you know that you get what you pay for. But with steel, talking about sharpening. So this knife right here is from Kaiser, and it's an S35E in steel. It's a really, really strong steel. The Spyderco is an S30V. They're both super strong steels. Here's the thing. Because they're so strong, once they break down, they take a long time to sharpen. You have to put way more work into them. But then there's something like an AUS 8 or an 8CR 13 MOV. They're really, really dull steels. Not dull steels. They're cheap budget steels. So they're really, really soft. So you use them, you put them to work, and you're always having to sharpen them. You can do one day of work, you got to sharpen them. You can fall into those categories where you're trying to be so tough that once you break down and have to be sharpened, it causes destruction, it takes forever, it's super time consuming. Or you can fall into the AUS 8 8CR 13 MOV steel where you're always being broken down and always having to be sharpened, and although both those can be used in great things, what I think we should strive to be is something like a D2 steel. So D2 steel is kind of like all the rage now because it's an inexpensive steel, but it's strong, also easy to sharpen. So you can do a lot of work with it, and it can go through a lot of tough tasks. But when it's time to sharpen it, it's not as rough to sharpen. It's not going to take you all day. It's not going to be super rough. We have to be careful not to fall into, I want to be too tough of a steel where nothing can sharpen me. Or I'm too soft of a steel where I'm always getting broken down and I'm always having to be sharpened and back and forth. But something that can put in a lot of work, and then when it's time to sharpen, yeah, there's friction there, but we're not super gruff and almost unsharpenable at times.
You're saying we should be like moldable, like clay.
It should be moldable and pliable like clay. Friction's going to come in order to sharpen any type of knife, whether it's super duper crappy steel, whether it's ACR 13, S30V, D2, whatever it is. Friction has to come in order to sharpen them. Like, for instance, the way I sharpen, I use multiple stones to get the fine edge. And it's time consuming. And you can hear and you can feel the burr being created. But on something like this, sometimes I feel like I'm wasting my time sharpening it. Because I know the very next time I go cut cardboard, I have to come sharpen it again. But with the D2 knife, I've had it for a while. I use it heavily. I haven't had to sharpen it yet. It's still sharp. But I know from research that when I do have to sharpen it, it's not going to be as hard. It's not going to be as time consuming. It's not going to be as difficult. And once I sharpen it, it's going to do just as much work as it did the first time.
So how would you apply that to our Christian life?
I mean, that's a good question. So, be willing to be worked on. Don't just throw that iron sharpens iron thing as just like a way for us to go, oh yeah, we can fight and get over it. But truly take into consideration that is literally meant to grow the church. It's literally meant to grow you as a person. You have to have friction in your life. Just like Paul says, be thankful for the trials and tribulations you go to because they'll bring along X, Y, and Z. The hard times that we come to, the hard conversations that we have to have, the times that we bump heads are always used to better us and make us a more usable weapon for Christ. So be willing to have those, and don't just use that thought process as a way to be like, okay, whatever. iron sharpens iron. Yeah, we can fight with each other and get over it. But think about it truthfully as, so the tool is dull. I have to resharpen the tool to use the tool. It's ineffective if it's not sharp. A knife that isn't sharp is basically just a freaking paperweight. But when it's sharp, it can be used for so many things. And stupid things. Cutting zip ties, cutting cardboard, opening mail, cutting bananas. Or your self-defense tasks. But if it's not sharp when you go to do any of those, from the finest tasks to the most gruff, gruesome tasks you could think of, if it's not sharp, it can't do that. We're faced with spiritual battles every day. Our issues aren't with other people. And because of that, we have to use the tools that Christ has given us, use the other iron, if you will, that's going to sharpen us, use those sharpening stones in our lives to help make us a stronger tool for the cause of Christ and to make them a stronger tool for the cause of Christ.
All right. So there you have it, guys.